First off, I want to thank the grace of heaven and the virtues of the masters, the mercy of the grand predecessors, transmitting masters, lecturers, and everyone here today for this opportunity to continue talking about discussing this topic. Okay, so today, the last time we left off just before this one. So, okay. Once again, just a reminder that this is Holy Teacher's guidance, teachings given, and I don't know. It sounds like some kind of a staff or some kind of staff class, maybe a temple host lecture class. Okay, so so sometimes he might say some things that is a little bit kind of a stronger words. He might use some stronger words, in terms of, what he's trying to, when he's talking to these staff members, right? So again, the expectations are different so if we're just beginning, we're a new person, just keep that in mind. It's not, what we should do is just, listen, learn what the principles are, and we should, just always follow the principles. Okay, so the principles always apply anyways. All right. Okay, so, we were talking about this in this section, about this having a tranquil mind, and that it will result in a level path of cultivation. Okay. So, cultivation, right, it should be very unrestrained and natural, because that's what the Tao is, right? It's natural, unrestrained. But while being unrestrained, it doesn't mean that we can do anything we want or how we want to do it, right? It's necessary to follow the Tao, right? The principles of the Tao, and to conform to the rules and proprieties. But then, that's it, right? So we kind of stop there. We don't take it too far, right? So if we go too far, which is also just as bad as not going far enough, right? Then we cannot conform to the middle way, right? The middle way, the middle path. That's the Tao, right? So it's not to either extreme. Sometimes we think, oh, good. If it's good, then more is better, right? So, but not necessarily. Okay, so we have to know how much is enough, and also know, how much do we need, right? So it's what is not enough either. So it's kind of there's a middle ground somewhere, but it's not like an exact figure. Like if we go like talking about from 0 to 100, it's not 50. Okay, that would be hard to achieve if it's only 50. So, but it's probably like a range, like from 40 to 60, right? Or maybe even broader range. It depends. So again, everything still depends on the situation, right? The conditions, all right? Even though, we talk about, so that's, in other words, that's all relative. But we do talk about, we want to transcend the relative to the absolute. But what we're talking about there is in terms of the principles, right? The truth. That's absolute. The principles are absolute because the principles don't change. But yet we live in this phenomenal world, the world of forms, which is all you can say it's subjective, it's all relative, and it's full of conditions. And so we have to apply the absolute truth or the absolute principle to this relative or this conditional environment. Okay, and therefore when you apply something that's absolute to something that's a relative condition, then of course then the result is going to be relative, but it's still incorporating that absolute principle, but when it's put into practice or manifested, then it becomes relative. Okay. And so that's something that we always have to keep in mind, that so just like we say, there's right and wrong, but it's not absolute right or absolute wrong. Okay, so it depends on the situation. All right, so that's something very important. So this is what we're talking about, the middle way. All right, Holy Teacher goes on and says, like if people are too polite, right? So we might think, oh, being polite is nice, right? It's good. But if they're being too polite, then we might be frightened by it or kind of put off by it, or we're kind of afraid, what are they really trying to do, right? Or maybe we start suspecting, or what is their intention or motivation. At the same time, if they are too rude, right, impolite, then we think they're not considerate enough, right? So therefore, it's not easy to achieve the middle way. So when we usually come to the temple, some people say one thing, others say something else, another thing, right? So this talk becomes gossip that gets passed around. Okay, so in talking about, in gossiping, while we're gossiping, right, who is the most uncomfortable, right? Holy Teacher asks, right? It is ourselves, is it not? Maybe the other person already moved on. Okay, so maybe the other person, they passed on a bit of gossip, but then, they kind of moved on from it. Okay, it's like it's just something that they heard, or maybe they saw, or whatever, and they mentioned it, and then that's it. Okay, but then when we hear it, then we dwell on it. If we dwell on that, then that's what Holy Teacher is talking about. That then we're uncomfortable. We become uncomfortable about what we just heard. Okay, so because we keep thinking about it, and then that becomes a hindrance, right? So then that kind of affects us in how we perceive, how we see the person, and maybe how we might deal with someone else. Okay, so that becomes a hindrance, an impediment, an obstacle. Right? So that kind of discomfort comes from our attachments, our stubbornness, and impediments which are not correct and do not conform to the middle way. Okay. Therefore, our Holy Teacher wants us to rectify our mind and thoughts, to have the right solutions and the right thinking. Okay, so again, these right solutions, the right thinking, they come from those, you can say, the right principles, or the true principles, the Tao principles, okay, that we are constantly learning in these classes. So if we can really truly grasp and understand those principles, those are the right principles, and we know how to apply those principles. Again, this takes, this is part of the cultivation, okay, the learning how to apply these principles in the right way, okay. And so that also, requires wisdom. Okay, to be able to basically, what would the right way, again, the middle way is, it's not just one way, right? It is, you can say it's, let's see, it's whatever is appropriate. We say, quote unquote, the right thing, right, to do in any given situation or in any given condition. And so the right thing, whatever that is, it's not absolute, right? Okay, so it's whatever is appropriate, whatever is apt, right? APT, whatever is apropos, okay? It's the right thing to do in that situation. We might be applying, let's say, the principle, of compassion or some other principle, righteousness, in that situation. In a different situation, the right thing to do, the apropos thing to do, might be something else, even though we're applying that same principle. Okay, so that's this this is where we have to. You can say maybe there's a skill that we have to develop to be able to do this, okay? And as long as we have attachments, we have biases, prejudices, right? Stubbornness, these things will prevent us from doing the right thing, doing what's appropriate or apropos in any given situation. So if we are if we are very stubborn in our ways, if we have a very strong attachment in certain ways, then we might just apply, we think we're applying the principle correctly, but we apply it, the same way in all situations, right? So it's always this one way. So it's like always using a hammer as your tool, when sometimes you're hammering a nail, but other times you have a screw and you need to use a screwdriver and you can't use a hammer. Okay, so it's the same idea. All right. Okay. All right, so if our mind can be still and quiet to the extreme, then the foul energy and blocked energy flow in the body will naturally pass. This is called self-taught. Okay, so so the Chinese there is literally, without a teacher, it naturally, or by itself, it clears itself. Okay, but as this phrase here, if you look it up, it's self-taught. Okay, but because our Buddha nature is healing us. Okay, so if we can still or quiet our mind, calm our chi, right, our temper, basically, then our blood circulation will be better, and we will recover from illnesses. Okay, so this holy teacher is saying that, basically, if we keep our, we always quiet. I mean, in the mind, right, heart and mind is quiet and still, and he's saying to the extreme. Okay, so this is where you can go to the extreme. Okay, so. But this is within our mind that, achieve that tranquility, that quietude, quiescence. And then naturally a lot of, you can say our, health, maybe, the body, the problems that we have with our body, they can resolve itself or heal itself directly. Okay, by itself, and we don't need to do anything. So, in other words, a lot of our illnesses or ailments come from our heart and mind, our the state of our heart and mind, right? It's because we have too many worries. We have, we get angry a lot, get bad temper, all these things, or strong desires, obsessions. All these things affect our body, right? It's mind and body, right? It's one. Okay, mind and body. Mind affects body, okay? And so whatever is in our mind will affect our body and it'll affect our health. Therefore, having a clear mind, having a calm mind will help enable a healthier body, okay? All right. Okay, so Holy Teacher asks, what is having a good heart? Is it saying good words? Okay, so if the heart and mind is moving up and down, are we able to say good words, right? The up and down meaning our heart and mind is not stable. Okay, so it's not, or you can say it's not quiet. Okay, it's not still, right? And it's like our mood. It can be our mood can change. So during the day, how long can we maintain a good mood? Right? Perhaps there are more dark clouds than sunny days, right? So Holy Teacher is saying, maybe, we are more, more of our time is spent in a bad mood than in a good mood. Okay, so in cultivation, we must know how to observe our own heart and mind. Right? Disciples learn to observe our own heart and mind. Yeah, this is, cultivation. So this is an important aspect of cultivation, actually, the internal reflection, the self-reflection, the introspection, right? To the self-examination, examine our own heart and mind. Because too many times we spend too much time, I would say, examining other people, right? And looking at others. And seeing and not necessarily criticizing others, but we see the faults of others. Okay, that's like the big bad habit, if you will, that we all have. Most of us have that we do that. Okay, so we see and then but that's this is throughout these this whole topic. Holy Teacher is talking about that, and it's like when we do that, we're creating our own suffering as a result, and we're okay. So we only have ourselves to blame. Okay, so we have to basically turn our eyes inward, look at ourselves. Right, it's not about judging other people. We have to kind of, if you want, judge ourselves, or we have to evaluate ourselves. Okay. So the most precious and difficult thing for us is that in this prosperous world, right, in this, pretty much our life for most people is pretty good and comfortable right now. And we can calm the heart and mind and clear up any distracting thoughts. Right? True cultivation is to be free from distracting thoughts. Right? So distracting thoughts are the thoughts that kind of we don't really have that much control over, right? They just pop up in our mind. And so most of our quote unquote thoughts are these distracting thoughts. Okay, they just pop up. And because normal thoughts, we're deliberately thinking about something. Okay, that's a different story. But these distracting thoughts, they just kind of they just appear whenever. Okay. And so we have to try to clear those. So that's why we always talk about there's the practice, right, of letting go of all karmic affinities and not giving rise to a single thought. Okay, so basically not giving rise to these distracting thoughts, right? So that takes practice, that takes skill, okay, to do. It's not easy, but if we want to calm and still our mind, we have to do that, right? Okay. Okay, so what is the best environment for cultivation, right? So the Holy Teacher says, disciples must cultivate themselves well, right? It does not mean that we must leave society and go to a quiet place to cultivate. Right? If we find a most quiet place that we think has the cleanest air and think that it is the only place where we can cultivate and be healthy, that's not necessarily so. Okay, so why? Because if our thoughts are not good, not happy, even if we went to the best possible place, we will not be happy. So again, ultimately, happiness or the state of mind, it is the ultimate determinant, okay, the ultimate factor, okay, that determines things, and it's not the external environment. So we can really cultivate anywhere, it doesn't matter. Now, if we really think that we have to be in a quiet place, up in the mountains somewhere, away from everything to cultivate, then basically we are relying on those external conditions, forms to cultivate, which is not the ultimate, right? We will not achieve the ultimate. The ultimate is conquering the mind, okay, or subduing the mind, if you will, to achieve that state of quiescence in the mind, that tranquility in the mind. Then, if we can do that, then it doesn't matter where we are. We can be in a war zone and we can still cultivate, okay? And you can see that's kind of what happened during the early days in China when they were the patriarchs, our predecessors. They were cultivating and they were propagating the Tao. It was done in that kind of environment. Okay, so but basically the best environment for cultivation is that tranquil mind. Okay, so it's a state of mind, right? We have to achieve that state of mind. That is the ultimate, right? Now, okay, so Tao cannot leave daily life. Okay, so it will always be in our lives, following us forever, and it cannot be separated from our lives. Okay, so so people must not do the things that go against the Tao principles. right? We must actively get close to it and do things in accordance with the Tao in order to get closer to it, right? Then we are getting closer to the Buddha, right? So, you can think, oh, Tao is the Buddha, so we have to get closer to the Tao. And how we do that is to practice those principles, those Tao principles, okay? So when we are following those principles, then we are getting closer to the Tao and getting closer to the Buddha and becoming a Buddha, right? So that's why it's inseparable. We cannot separate it from our daily life. We cannot say, because cultivation is in our daily life, and therefore we cannot separate it. We cannot say, oh, only when I go to the temple or when I'm reading the sutras or attending the class, that's when I'm cultivating. If we're not cultivating all the other times, then we're not going to succeed. Okay, we will not be successful. All right, because what are we doing the other times? If we're not following the Tao principles, then it's kind of it kind of like cancels out all the other stuff, the other times that we're when we're going to the temple or attending classes. So therefore, we always have to be following those principles. Right. So that's what cultivation is. All right. Now, good people will flock together, and other good people with other good people, right, and coalesce into a good direction, into a good attractive field. Okay, so in Chinese they use 磁场, which literally means like a magnetic field. Okay, but it's like this attractive field, right? So we hear, right, birds of a feather flock together. So like attracts like. Okay, so it's kind of like there's this force or this attractive force, if you will, attractive field. And if people get together with bad people, they will go in a bad direction. Okay, therefore, the worse that bad people are, the more evil, greedy, angry, and will be, and the attractive field will become bad. Okay, so that becomes so obviously, when there's a group of I guess evil people and they're doing bad stuff, they're gonna attract other bad people to them. Okay, so it's unlikely that they're going to attract good people to them. So on the contrary, if we think of Tao and Buddhas, then our attractive field will be good and our body and health will be good. So all day long, we will be full of happiness. Right? If we just think about bad things, about King Yama, right? He's the king, he's the ruler or in charge of the underworld, right? And about extremely evil people, then our mind will be agitated and irritable and unhappy. Okay, so that makes sense, right? So, in other words, we should, if we want to be happy, if we want to feel good, then obviously we should think about good stuff. Okay, and that makes sense. Okay, so whatever is in our mind will attract that kind of thing. So if our mind is positive, it's good. It'll attract positive energy, right? And good energy. If our mind is thinking about bad stuff, negative stuff, then that's what we attract to ourselves. So again, if we're in a bad place, if we are bad things are happening to us, then we really need to change. Make sure that our mindset, that our thinking, our mind, everything is positive, everything is good. Okay, otherwise any little negativity, negative thoughts, bad thoughts will attract the negative energy, which will make our situation worse. All right. Okay. So if a person is selfish, then there will be all kinds of resentment. Right? Therefore, unease, complaints, and conflicts will arise one after another. All right, people suffer because of selfishness. Okay, because they're selfish, they have no desire for the public good. They're just looking out for themselves. Right, so of course they will suffer. Right, if we can get rid of this selfish heart and exchange it with a heart that has the public good in mind. Right, so always thinking of or being considerate to others, then there will be no suffering, right? When this is the case, no matter what we see, we will feel very good. Right? It does not matter if you treat me well or poorly. I am just fine, not having suffered any loss. Okay, this is the heart and mind of equanimity and impartiality. So if you treat me well, then we are all fine. If you treat me poorly, that is not a problem either. I will still treat you well. Okay, so it's not like an eye for an eye type of thing, where however someone else treats me, then I'm going to treat them the same way. As we always, so this is where you can say it's not relative, it's absolute, where I treat everyone, I always treat them well, no matter what. So you can say that's absolute. Okay. And that's kind of breaking out of that relative thing, that thinking. Okay. So Holy Teacher hopes that we have this type of mindset and attitude. Right? We should not treat the other person badly just because they treated us badly. Right? This will be very miserable. And that's true, because, it's just, if no one is willing to make that change, right, or to have that change of mind, then it's always going to be miserable, because you'll always be treating each other badly, okay, until someone decides that, nope, I'm not going to be like that. I'm going to be better, right? I'm going to, no matter, even if you treat me badly, I'm going to treat you well. And actually, that is the way to change the other person. Okay, you don't change the other person by treating them badly, right? Even though they may have treated us badly, that's how we can change the other person, right? So therefore, calm the mind and purify the mind. Right? Then no matter what we see, we can be at ease, happy, and content. Right? This is cultivating the Tao. When we cannot calm our mind, then we must learn how to do it. As a human being, it is better to keep things simple. Yeah, I mean, so yeah, we do tend to make things too complicated for ourselves, especially in our mind. We think too much. We think that people, we tend to kind of think that people have certain intentions or motivations when they don't really exist. Those are just in our mind, created in our mind only, right? Based on what we see and hear, of course, but we don't know what's in that person's heart, in their mind. Okay, so we are kind of guessing, and these things could be based on our own. I mean, they are based on our own, either preconceptions, attachments, biases, all that. All right. Okay. Okay, so if we do not purify our mind and thoughts, then no matter how well others speak, or how much the Buddhas speak, or the teaching, are we able to listen and let it sink in? Right? When our mind is full, we cannot listen. Just like a teacup that is full, it cannot accept any more water. Right? So if we do not know how to humble ourselves and reduce or lower, our temper or attitude, then we will blindly reject the good teaching, the good Dharma, right? And it will be difficult to realize the mind seal of the Dharma. We must empty our mind to accommodate more truths and treasures. So it's that Zen story, whatever, this student seeking wants to learn, I guess, from a master. It goes to the master, and the master the master being the master knows what's in, the student's mind, and pours the tea into the teacup for the student and keeps pouring, and the tea is overflowing, and the student, says, whoa, this cup is overflowing. But obviously the master is trying to make a point, is teaching, that's a teaching point, right, without saying anything. And that master says, well, basically, your mind is full. How can you learn anything, right? How can you accept anything new? Okay, so again, that's part of being humble is to say, it's like, even though I may know a lot of things, we have to humble ourselves to be able to learn new things, right? If our attitude is such that, oh, I know everything. I have a PhD. I have 3 PhDs. So I know a lot, but we don't know everything. And so in fact, we really don't know much at all, actually. And so we have to be humble in order to learn, okay? To be able to accommodate these truths and treasures, okay? So that's again very important a principle, you can say, for us to follow, right? So Holy Teacher hopes that we can hold on to the heavenly or the divine heart and walk the good walk on the road of life, because only the divine heart is eternal, right? Do not let our human heart be in charge and disturb our soul and essence. The human heart, of course, is the one that's affected by emotions, affected by our thoughts, affected by the conditions, by our senses, all that. Okay. So the divine heart, you can say, is that it's kind of it's above that. Okay. So it's kind of like it's not influenced or affected, unperturbed by any of those things, the conditions, whatnot. So in that sense, you can say that's the absolute. That's why it's eternal. Okay, never changes. Holy Teacher also hopes that at every train station in life, right, so we can send this divine heart to the sentient beings waiting to board the train, so that they can also be like us, having a divine heart. Right? If everybody has a divine heart, then the world would not have so many injustices and bad things that could influence our heart and mind, right? So yeah, if only everyone could have this divine heart, right? Heart and mind. That is, of course, we all wish that, I guess. But how do we achieve that? I mean, we have to achieve it in ourselves first, of course. I mean, if we can't do it ourselves, then it's hard to ask other people to do it. So don't let that human heart, again, that's again the human heart also, you can say that's where the ego is too. Okay, so we have to, if we can get rid of the ego, then we can suppress get rid of, not be controlled by our emotions, not be controlled by our desires, all those things, and not be perturbed, influenced by conditions. Then I think our divine heart and mind can be revealed. Okay. Okay. Now, let's see. Oh, okay. So, all right. So now we're in another new section here. So in this section, it's about ferrying sentient beings while we cultivate, and vice versa. Basically, cultivating while we're ferrying sentient beings. Okay. So, ferrying sentient beings. Okay, so that we tend to say that's the external cultivation or the practice, the propagation of the Tao, right? Trying to guide other people to this path of the Tao, and cultivating in this context here then is generally referring to the self-cultivation. Okay, the internal aspect. So it's both external and internal. So basically, while we are cultivating you can say the internal aspect, our virtues, cultivating our mindset, all that stuff, we are also trying to ferry others. But then at the same time, the other way around, when we also ferrying others, because propagating the Tao, then we also are also cultivating internally. Okay, so it's the two. We cannot leave. I mean, we can't just do one or the other. We're doing both kind of at the same time. All right. Okay, so whether we are in front or behind, or basically leading or following, our words and actions must be consistent. Right. So action and stillness also must be consistent. So, we cannot just believe in ourselves in stillness, but when we act, then we let our six senses go wild. Okay, so then we're really following our senses and desires, right, that arise from the senses. Okay, so the Tao of humanity, right, that's basically the practice of Tao as a human, right, that in human relationships, how we deal with other people, okay, must be consistent with the Tao of heaven. Okay, so it is not just about tending to the Tao of heaven, but we must practice well the Tao of humanity. Moreover, as staff members, we must be able to respect predecessors and mentor the novices. Okay, so or the newer people. So this is actually this is the second of the 15 rules and regulations. Okay, so in order to be consistent when leading or following. So no matter if we are leading or following, we must be consistent in maintaining an orderliness. Okay. So how the transmitting masters are doing things, we also guide the Tao Kin, the people who receive the Tao, to do things following the principles. Because we, the staff, are basically the bridge between the transmitting masters and the Tao Kin. So we must respect the teachers and principles and observe the protocols in order to maintain consistency. Okay, so we always have to be consistent. We should always be consistent, right? From in terms of time, it's like from the beginning to the end, all the way through to the end. We should always be consistent in our cultivation, and also in other dimensions. So whether it's like our words and our actions and our thoughts, they should all be consistent as well, right? So otherwise, if there's an inconsistency anywhere, then it's like we're kind of like a hypocrite. Okay, that's what's being called a hypocrite. Okay, or in Chinese, 矛盾. Okay, so but basically there's an inconsistency there. Okay, so then people, unfortunately, people, they see that. As soon as they see an inconsistency, then they say, oh well, you're full of it. I mean, you say one thing but you don't do it. Okay, so so that we have to be careful. Now, not only must we be consistent when we're doing things, but we have to be consistent doing the right things. Okay, so following these Tao principles. So it's not, I could be consistently bad, right? Doing bad things, saying bad things, thinking bad things, right? That's consistent, but that's not what we're talking about. We're talking about we got to do the good things, right? Do the right things, right? Follow the Tao principles, and do it consistently. Okay, so now cultivators should not only ferry people, but also love all beings, right? Which is to say, to be vegan or vegetarian and not eat animal flesh. Okay, so Holy Teacher, saying that, right? Therefore, humans and animals must be consistent, right? During this Dharma ending age and universal salvation period, right, we want the world to be consistent. Now, the most important thing is that we have this affinity to encounter the great Tao. So it is our duty to express our pure and innocent heart and mind from beginning to end, to manifest it in actual practice, to be consistent from beginning to end. Right? Only then can we truly be in harmony with Tao and consistent in body and mind. Okay, so again, so these are we have to maintain consistency in different dimensions, right? And also over time. Right, and so Holy Teacher is saying that to be consistent with this world, basically in this world, and with animals, we cannot eat them. We shouldn't be eating them, right? That would be kind of inconsistent, right? So again, another plug, if you will, for being vegan or vegetarian, right? Okay. Okay, so cultivation and practice. of Tao requires a mind of fairness and public spiritedness. Right? We must not have a selfish mind. We also should have an undying heart and mind, which is the divine heart and mind, born of our phenomenal existence, right? This bodily existence, material existence. Having the spirit of ferrying, to ferry sentient beings, it naturally resonates with the divine mind. That is the Jigong living Buddha, right? So that's kind of his title, right? Holy Teachers, in a previous incarnation, or I guess you can say Nirmanakaya, okay, his incarnation in this world, his transformation body, I guess. He was known as Jigong living Buddha. Jigong meaning in Chinese, it's like saving the public, okay. And he was like a living Buddha. I mean, he was a monk before, and so if we have that same mind, and we were trying to save sentient beings, then that's what we are. Okay, so Buddhas are for people to worship their spirit, not to worship their images, right? So yeah, we have to realize that, unfortunately, I guess perhaps in a lot of the religions, people who they believe, right, in the Buddhas, or they worship them, but they're really worshiping their image rather than really worshiping the spirit, which means really to follow their spirit, to learn their spirit of practice, of cultivation, and to follow it as well, and to practice it themselves. Okay, so that's what we're here to. That's what we do here in the Tao Temple, and that's why we teach that kind of thing. We don't just blindly worship. Okay, so because that's not the Buddha's intent. They don't want us to worship them. They don't need our worship. They want us to become enlightened, become Buddhas like them, and the only way that we can do that is to emulate, to learn from them, and to practice their ways. Okay. Okay, so the Tao field or community is like a country that has a first generation of temple hosts. Right, the first generation of temple hosts ferries the second generation, then the second generation passes the torch on to the third generation, and continuing the lineage generation after generation. Right, a Tao field having this kind of continuing heritage of founding members and predecessors means that the Tao field is more stable and firm. However, if the Tao field has only large numbers of people, let's say you have 1,000 people, right? They come this time, and then next time you have a new batch of 1,000 people come in, then where are the true cultivators? Right? What are they giving, or basically investing in this Tao field? What are disciples earnest and serious about? So we must master this principle. So this is very important, that Holy Teacher is saying it's not just these numbers. Yeah, you can have thousands of people receive the Tao, but it's like a revolving door, right? They come in, they receive the Tao, they leave, and that's it. And then so you never have people who stay to cultivate. And so that's the point. We want people to cultivate, and so it's pointless to have a revolving door temple, policy, basically, where you just bring people in. Doesn't matter if they're we don't know if they're going to cultivate. So that's why we have to know the person a little bit better. Make sure that they have that interest, they have the heart, the mind to want to learn and to cultivate, okay, to bring them in. Otherwise, it is kind of, anyways, this is Holy Teacher saying, this is not the Holy Teacher wants to see cultivators, okay, not just people having received the Tao and that's it. Because people who do not cultivate really, we've talked about this in the past a lot of times, is that it's not enough to return. If you just received the Tao, it's not enough to just receive the Tao and then return to heaven. Okay, so we have to, or to transcend the cycle of birth, death, rebirth. Okay, we have to cultivate, really. Okay, we need merits, we need virtues in order to transcend. So that's really what's more important. Okay. Okay, so we all have the desire to expand the Tao affairs, but perhaps we are just a little impatient and quickly asking others, maybe new people, to do something. And if they are not cultivating and we criticize or find fault in them, then this is a bad attitude and the wrong way of doing things. But just because of this, heaven will not deny us the opportunity to be involved in Tao affairs. Now, why not? Because we are diligent and wish for the good of others. But the problem is that we are using our human heart. Okay. Why don't we learn the divine heavenly heart? Right? Why must we make such a clear-cut judgment of right and wrong? Right? Insisting on determining who was right and who was wrong. Have we not learned anything from the predecessors? Right? Who has time to care about who did what right and what wrong? Right? We must deal with and take care of the matters at hand as soon as possible, and we must be clear about what they are. Only then are we doing things at ease. Okay, so this is again the where we as humans, we're using our human heart and mind, and this is the you can say the trap that we fall into all the time. We start judging right and wrong, okay, and we say, hey, you did something wrong. So Holy Teacher's point is that we shouldn't be arguing about what they did right and wrong. We have to deal with the situation. Okay, so the right and wrong, whatever was done was already done, and now we have to maybe we have to fix it. Okay, fix the situation or whatever. That's the matter at hand that we have to deal with. Okay, not arguing over whether they did something wrong, to get to this situation, right? So because that's already in the past. So this, you can say that's when we argue about those things, it's already part of the three minds, the mind of the past. We're stuck on the past, something that was done. All right. So we have to get rid of that and just deal with, okay, so it doesn't matter. Someone did something. It could have been right, could have been wrong, but now this is the situation we have to deal with now. Okay, and let's just deal with it. All right. So you can say that's being more objective. That's not having the human heart and mind, the emotions involved, or the ego is not involved. Okay. All right. So just because people do not do things the way we do things, right? We should not stop helping them. Right? Helping them is our responsibility because we are staff members. Right? As lecturers and temple hosts, we each have vows to fulfill. Therefore, we must help each other when doing good works or good things, right? And work together when encountering problems. If because of our dissatisfaction with others' work, we also do things unsatisfactorily, then we cannot fulfill our vows and cannot nurture our virtue, right, or moral integrity. So is this not paying a high price, or basically, throwing good money after bad, right? So basically, again, we should be doing the right thing all the time. So just like, so you can think of, if the person did something right or wrong, it's like as if someone treated us well or not, or badly, right? But we still deal with the situation in the right way. Okay, so we would treat them well regardless. So otherwise, we kind of, again, it's like falling into we'll fall into that duality. Okay, so again, this is that duality trap we want to avoid. Okay, in other words, we would drop to their, if we would consider them to be, so that's at the lower level, we would also then have fallen to that level. Okay, but we're supposed to be above that. Okay, so be better than that. Okay, so that's why he says, we'll be paying a high price, or we'll be throwing good money at the bad. That's, I guess, the saying. All right. Let's see. Okay. Okay, so establishing virtue is a skill of internal cultivation, right? Self-reflection, diligence, treating people with magnanimity and tolerance is establishing virtue. So what about meritorious service, or establishing merits? Helping others materially with words and principles, and fearless effort is establishing merit. Right, so those are kind of like the three types of giving, I guess we talk about. Doing our best to encourage and guide others is establishing merit. So not just establishing virtue and merit, but also establish ourselves in Tao principles and truths. Right, our grand predecessor and predecessor are established in Tao principles and truths, are experienced in the Tao cultivation and practice, and have knowledge and understanding of and conviction in the Tao from which we must learn. Right, so obviously our grand predecessor, our predecessors, they are models, role models, good examples for us to learn from and to follow. Okay. And because they have achieved, basically they have all become, bodhisattvas, Buddhas, saints, whatever, immortals. And so we have much to learn from them. Okay. So merits, so virtues, right? And merits, those two, you can say the internal, external. So you can see that in the internal side, we have to self-reflect all the time. It's not just, when we're sitting there meditating, that's, this is talking about a state of mind that we can always be self-reflecting all the time, 24/7, no matter what we're doing. Okay. We should always self-reflect. Again, so, in one sense, you can say, just like what we've been saying before, don't fall into the duality trap. Don't judge people, right and wrong, that stuff. So when if we cut that off, then at least we're not, maybe we're not necessarily self-reflecting, but, or introspecting, but at least we're not doing the things that are going against us. So, and then, so diligence, hard work, earnest sincerity, all that, magnanimity, tolerance. Okay. So, and then on the merit side, the external, again, the three types of giving: material, words, teaching, basically, or fearless effort, or, putting in the kind of effort to help people and encourage people, guiding others. Okay. So, and right, so we also have to be, so these are, in general, we talk about the cultivation as these two, but we also have to be established in the Tao principle of truth. In other words, we also have to learn these principles, okay, learn these things, and also to gain experience, right, through our practice of these things, applying the principles, right, using it in our daily lives. So that's very important too. So that's being established in these principles and truths. So it's not just book learning, not just academic learning, right? We have to put into practice. So this final point here says our grand predecessor and predecessor, they're very simple, straightforward, honest, and sincere. Right? When talking of principles and truths, they use the simplest of language that less educated and even children can understand. Yet the principles and truths are the most profound. Sometimes the principle is very simple that a 3-year-old child can understand, but a 70-year-old person cannot put into practice. Okay, so actually, if you think about it, most of these principles are pretty straightforward and simple, and we can all kind of understand it, at least on the mental, intellectual level. But putting into practice is becomes another story, and whether we are able to put it into practice again, there are all these sorts of obstacles, impediments within us that prevent us from doing it. And they're all, again, related it's all within the mind. It's our ego, our attachments, our biases, prejudices, our, stubbornness. All these things contribute to making it difficult to put these things into something that's supposed to be simple, putting it into practice. Okay. So that's why we have to get rid of those things. We have to work on that. That's the, you can say, the internal side of the cultivation that we have to really work on. And that's really, so, we have to basically conquer our own mind, right? Master our own mind. Right? We tend to be able to master a lot of things that are external on the outside, but we can't seem to master our own mind. So that's a problem. All right. Okay. So sometimes we're mixed up in a situation where we have to, where we have put in some effort, right, helped others, and hope that they can meet our expectations. So if they do not meet our expectations, then we become annoyed, angry, and upset. Right? We have these vexations because we have forgotten to cultivate ourselves. Okay, so who doesn't have expectations? I think we probably all have certain expectations of others, right? In this case, Holy Teacher is talking about, where we basically either maybe help someone and guided them, but we also expect them to do something in a certain way, perhaps, or and if they don't meet those expectations, then that upsets us. But obviously, I mean, the problem here is not the other person, but ourselves. Okay, that Holy Teacher is saying that we forgot to cultivate ourselves because we shouldn't be upset or angry about that. Okay, so that means that we still have that ego, that just the stuff that we just talked about. That means that we haven't cultivated, we haven't gotten rid of those. Okay, so that's why we do get upset and angry, right? Okay, so do we typically study the 4 books, right? This is the Confucius classics teachings, right? The 4 books. If we do not study the books of saints and sages, then how can we understand their aspirations? How can we understand their mind? How can we bring peace and stability to the country? Therefore, if we do not study the 4 books, we will lose 4 things. We do not say things clearly or in the correct order. It's when we talk and we're trying to maybe teach something, it's not very clear. It's like maybe it's very circuitous. It's very, or we're talking about all sorts of different things and we're not getting to the point. Okay. Or number 2, we do not know the appropriate or what's the satisfactory way to deal with matters. Okay, again, so this is not the easy one. Knowing to do the right thing, doing what's apropos, what's appropriate for the situation. Okay, 3, if we are not dignified in appearance or manner. Okay. 4, our life has no light. So if we are able to study the entire 4 books and understand the mind, aspirations, and spirit of saving the world, that of the saints and sages, then then our own lives will shine brightly, right? If we can understand the spirit of Confucius' teachings, we definitely will be able to handle matters satisfactorily, and our speech will be gentle and elegant. If we are able to learn these principles from Confucius, then we can be an example of Tao, whether we are walking, standing, sitting, or lying down. So those are the 4 awe-inspiring postures. Okay, that's what Buddha talked about. But Holy Teacher is using that here, saying that so we can be, if we're an example of Tao, then anything in any kind of whatever we're doing, we will be expressing the Tao. Okay, so but also, so Confucius, his principles that he taught are important because they relate directly to the Tao of humanity that we talk about in our how we relate to other people. Okay, and so that is that's why the cultivation today is kind of a combination, if you will. It's it's practicing the Tao of humanity. So that's Confucius' teachings. Of course, you can say to achieve the higher the Tao of heaven. Okay. And so you can say that some of the teachings of the Buddha, the Lao Tzu, they tend to be talking about kind of at the higher level, more abstract. But some of what they're talking about is in the relates to kind of the human activities as well. But Confucius, his teachings are very relevant today, very applicable. They're very practical, really, and if everyone learned those principles that Confucius talks about, and we can practice it, then we can achieve the world of unity, world of harmony that he envisioned back then. Okay, so and that is kind of the purpose or the aim or the goal of Tao, receiving this practice of Tao and the propagation of the Tao in this world. Okay, so it is very important to study the four books. Now, I realize that it's not easy to, they do. I guess there are translations of the four books, but they're done by someone who's not in the Tao, doesn't know the Tao, so therefore their translation is not necessarily the correct one, or it's not the best. Okay, so but that's generally all that's out there that you can find. So that's why in the temple, maybe that's where we can learn more about these principles from the Tao point of view, okay, from the Tao understanding. All right. Okay. 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 So, all right. So if all we do is propagate Tao today and tomorrow, right, ferry people today and tomorrow, then we may have lost ourselves in the process. Okay. So again, this is kind of just the external. You can say the external side of things, propagating Tao, ferrying people. As we propagate Tao more, we may worsen our temper, become more proud and arrogant, become more self-important, or become more attached to, wielding power. Then we do not know what humility and modesty is, and cannot realize what the divine heart and mind is, and cannot understand what it is to live in harmony. From outside appearance, wearing a necktie, eyeglasses, wearing a suit, all looks fine. But when we look inside of ourselves and see our self-nature, are we dignified? Okay, so we have to be dignified inside and out, not just on the outside, the appearance that people can see, but on the inside, in our heart and mind as well. So Holy Teacher, again, is kind of reminding us that it's not just about ferrying people if we forget about what's going on in our heart and mind, if we're not cultivating the heart and mind, the inside, then he's saying that then we kind of lost ourselves in just doing that kind of stuff. It's not to say that we shouldn't do the other stuff. Of course, that's why this section is about doing both, right? We can cultivate our heart and mind as well as ferrying people. Okay, so but we have to do both. So you might say that there might be a balance too. Okay, so it's not we don't just do one and neglect the other. We can't do one and neglect the other. Everything looks good in the Tao field, in the Tao temple, Tao field. Everything looks refined and elegant. The female staff are warm and gentle, respecting the predecessors and treating others well. But after returning home, we still are the same old self, whether that is proud and arrogant, we have a quick or bad temper, or we disobey our parents. Okay, we cannot call this cultivating and practicing in daily life. Okay, so therefore, if we are a Tao cultivator, we must practice it in daily life to express or manifest Tao from our words and actions. Again, it's not, if we're just coming to temple and, we dressing in the uniform and we're all courteous and following all the proprieties and we say all good, nice words in the temple, but but if we go home or once we leave the temple, we're a different person, then really what we're doing in the temple is just kind of for show. Okay, it's not real. It's not sincere. If it's sincere, we would be doing it all the time. Okay, no matter where we are, who we're dealing with, not just other Tao members, but our family members, our co-workers, okay, friends. Okay, so that's why Tao is practiced in everyday life. So whatever principles we learn and practice in the temple, we practice also at home, at work, with friends or anywhere. Okay, so that's truly cultivating, and so it has to be every day, all the time. All right, so that's being consistent. All right, okay. Let's see. I didn't get very far here. Maybe. Gosh. Okay. Well. All right. Let me just do one more here. Okay. So this is another section here. So cultivation is a gradual skill, or actually in the Chinese, it's like a drip by drip skill, and we either progress or we regress or retreat. Okay, so if we're not making progress, if we're not moving forward, then we're moving backwards. There's no such thing as standing still. Okay, so because if we stand still, time is moving, and so time doesn't stop. Therefore, we are effectively falling backwards. Okay, so therefore we have to keep up. Keep up with time, so to speak, and so we have to keep moving forward, right? Okay, so Holy Teacher is asking the class members, what do we call cultivators of 20 years? Okay, and the members say, predecessors or worthies. Okay, I've used the word worthies before. Okay, so also. Holy Teacher then says, we also have to add the word old, okay, because they've been at it for, at least 20 years, right? So, but do old predecessors necessarily have a good appearance, right? It is useless if they don't cultivate, right? So maybe they, they dress up properly on the outside, they look nice, but maybe they don't cultivate. If it's used, if they don't cultivate, then it doesn't matter. How long we've been in the Tao, it's useless. Okay, so to maintain cultivation for at least 10 years means that we have an affinity with Buddha and a solid foundation. It's definitely not easy. Okay, therefore, our cultivation is very complicated. How do we cultivate? The inner conflict is very fierce. Right, the process has twists and turns. Everyone has suffered hardships. Is it easy to suffer? Nobody likes the bitter taste of suffering, but everybody likes the sweet taste. Okay, so if we cultivate this long and are still afraid of hardships and trials, then we are just ordinary people, common folk. Okay, how can we say we are cultivating Tao if we have not grown or matured and improved in 10 years of practice? Okay, so Holy Teacher, you can say there's an expectation here that if we have been in the Tao, we've received the Tao for at least 10 years, then we should know how to practice, how to cultivate. Okay, then we should be cultivating. So Holy Teacher is saying that, well, if we don't know, if we're still like, any little trial or a little bit of hardship, and we said, no, I'm not going to do that, then that's not cultivating. That's just like a regular person. They're not really cultivators. Okay, so we have to, as a cultivator, over time, we're maybe in the beginning we don't really meet with that many hardships in our cultivation, but later on we get more and more. But we're supposed to be able to deal with it and accept it, and so that's really the way to progress. Okay, we can't progress if everything is always very very comfortable, right? That's not progressing. That's regressing. That's going backwards. Okay, that's the ordinary people. That's what they want, right? Okay, so those who have cultivated for less than 10 years have a less kind of a more slight foundation. What is Tao? And they say, it's nature or natural. Okay, so today it is not natural for you to sit here constrained to this building, sitting on a round wooden stool. Okay, so these are the class members. I guess their seating, their chairs it's just a stool that has no back, so it's I guess it's pretty uncomfortable. Is it miserable? You can't even move your body around. Right? People say that nature is beauty. Right? Holy teacher cannot see a happy smile on our faces, right? Because we are suffering. So of course, we are unable to smile. Although we have cultivated for a few years, but our faces show that we are not at ease, but rather show a sour expression. Yeah. So, if during the Dharma class, this is not like a regular Dharma class for new people, but this is like for staff members. So they probably are in there for I don't know. It could be multiple days. I'm not sure, but obviously it may not be as comfortable as what new people when they attend a Dharma class. They probably things are a little bit more comfortable for them, and so but as a staff member, basically supposedly been cultivating for many years. We shouldn't we shouldn't think, it's not comfortable. The seat, I can't really sit on this stool all day. Then I'm not going to come. So that's like that's then we're not really cultivating, and therefore we're really not qualified, if you will. Okay. But anyways, this is for those who are new, this is something. I mean, you're not at that level yet. So Holy Teacher is not really talking to you. It's talking to those who've been in the Tao for a long time, right? All right. Let me see. All right, I might as well just do one more here. Okay. So we do not know how to ask or demand of ourselves, right? We all have different hearts and minds. How can Holy Teacher talk to each individual heart and mind? Right? It is not easy for Holy Teacher. Right? If you think about it, everyone is different, right? Everyone has, maybe we have different views, we have different, what's in our heart and mind is different, with different problems, etc., different issues, right? And Holy Teacher, during a class, during a channeling, he can only talk about kind of general principles that apply to everyone. He can't really talk too much specifically about to each person. Okay, so that's why it's not easy for Holy Teacher. Now, we suffer, but at least we have Holy Teacher to listen to us, right? Now, but who can Holy Teacher talk to about his problems, right? So Holy Teacher, he also has some problem, right? We all have our own problems, but Holy Teacher's problem is what? It's us, it's disciples, right? But what is our problem, right? Our problems, it's ourselves, right? We have our own problems. So today we are cultivating to resolve this problem. Okay, so you can if you think about it, I mean we're kind of selfish. We're always thinking about our own problems. The Holy Teacher's, he's worried about us. Okay. So a Dharma class, they call it a Dharma class, but this is actually not the Dharma class that new people attend, right? Has its objective and function, right? Its function is for us to change ourselves, to change our bad habits. Then what is its objective? Right? Today we are here for ourselves, to be resolved in our aspiration, to confirm our purpose and mission, and to reaffirm ourselves. Have we reaffirmed ourselves? It is because we have not reaffirmed ourselves that we are here. Okay? So it is because we do not have enough faith, right? We give rise to to doubts, right? That the longer we cultivate, the less certain we are about what we are cultivating. Right? Sometimes we were cultivating, and maybe in the beginning we kind of have an idea. Yeah, I know what I'm cultivating for, but then over time, maybe we don't see results, or I mean, we expect to see results, and we don't see it. Then we kind of become lost. We're not so sure what are we cultivating for. Okay, then okay. Let's see. Okay, so these are the functions and objective for coming to this class, right? But have we thought about it? If we come here bewildered or confused, unclear, and listening to the classes, and we return home to our regular self, then haven't we just wasted our time here, right? So basically, we have to understand, or just even like today, like right now, we're listening to class in class. Virtual class, but we have to realize that there's a purpose. It's not just I come and listen just to so my name can be on the attendance sheet. But if I'm not getting anything out of it, if I'm not really absorbing what's being taught, if I'm not putting it to practice, then it's kind of a waste of time, really. Okay, so today we have put aside our work and family matters to come here for class. It's because we have a motive. Okay, so some people want to elevate themselves, okay, better themselves. Others want diligent progress. Some just want to listen to some classes. These are all motives. All motives. Okay, so Holy Teacher hopes that we not only seek these little things. The most important is to request or demand of ourselves, because we have not cultivated according to the Tao. Okay, so is it that we do not cultivate well, or just cannot do things well? Right? It's because we do not cultivate well that we do not do things well. Right? Today, we self-reflect on what we have done and look to the future. What should we be doing now? Start self-reflecting and introspecting. Right? So to examine ourselves. So examine our heart and mind. So even though we sacrifice some time to be here in class, but maybe we have some motive that we want to get something out of it for myself from the class. But Holy Teacher is saying that we have to ultimately demand of ourselves, right? If we don't push ourselves to do it, right? So to not just to learn, but to put into practice, then it's kind of a waste. It is a waste. So that's where we have to make that demand of ourselves. Okay, so it's not just asking others to teach us something, but we have to demand of ourselves ultimately to really make progress, to improve ourselves. Okay, to cultivate ourselves, right? So therefore, we really do have to kind of self-reflect, kind of reflect on, what our motives, our motivations, and our mindset should we have to have that, we have to have the faith, we have, conviction, and have that resolve, that determination to really want to achieve the goal of cultivation, and therefore, we have to be able to put it into practice. Okay, and that's cultivation. All right. So I think because of time, we'll end here, and we'll we'll continue next week. If I had said anything wrong, have made any mistakes or unsatisfactory, explanation. I asked the Buddhas for forgiveness and also asked the transmitting masters and lecturers for their corrections. Thank you.